What compels a civilization to move thousands of tons of stone to a hilltop and arrange it into a massive towering monument? The Reservoir Stone Mound in Ohio, once the largest indigenous stone structure north of Mexico, raises profound questions about the ingenuity, the beliefs, and the motivations of the ancient Adena culture of which who built it. Who were the builders of this enigmatic structure, and what exact purpose did it serve? Was it a monument to the dead? Was it a ceremonial gathering place? Or was it something even more profound? Perhaps it was a connection between the quote unquote earthly and the quote unquote divine. At its peak, the mound stood between 40 and 50 feet tall, with a diameter of between 180 to 200 feet, making it a colossal feature in the landscape of the day. To construct it, the builders would have transported an estimated 60,000 tons of stone to the site, which would have been a task that required immense labor, coordination, and shared purpose. And such an undertaking suggests not only a highly organized society, but also one that was driven by a deeply held cultural or perhaps spiritual imperative. And yet, the exact meaning of the mound still remains elusive, shrouded in the mists of prehistory. Radiocarbon dating of wooden fragments from a burial platform within the mound places its construction at approximately 130 AD, which would have been during the early Middle Woodland period. This dating would have aligned with the mound being created by the Adena culture, which would have been a civilization that flourished in the Ohio Valley between 1000 BC to roughly 200 AD. And the Adena culture, we've talked about many times on the channel, were known for their elaborate burial practices and many earthworks. The Adena left behind a legacy of monumental constructions that continue to intrigue archaeologists and historians alike. And the Adena culture did not build randomly either. The placement of their mounds often corresponded to significant landscape features, things like hilltops for vantage points, river confluences for trade and travel, and springs and hunting grounds for, well, hunting and water. They would have also marked other important natural landmarks and perhaps even different places where phenomena would happen, like gravitational phenomena, magnetic phenomena, when you look at places like the Serpent Mound, of which was built inside an impact crater. But that's a video all in and of itself we'll cover later on. The Reservoir Stone Mound's hilltop location is a case in point. It was built on a hilltop, probably for the means of some sort of vantage point, or perhaps it was even a sacred point because it was closer to the heavens in a sense. So this would suggest that it would have served as both a territorial marker and probably a spiritual focal point. Hilltops, like I said, often held symbolic importance for many different ancient cultures, in fact, and it would have represented a close connection to the gods, in a sense, right? The heavens, which would have provided the rain and other things that were needed for day-to-day life, like the sun as well, you know. So, could the mound builders have aligned it as well with possibly celestial events, which would have created an even more sacred space that reflected cosmology and astronomy? And the Adena culture were known to be very, very in line with astronomical events like solstices and that sort of thing. So this adds to the intrigue of the unique burial platform that was also uncovered within the stone structure. A feature that would be commonly associated again with Adena constructions. This platform was constructed of carefully arranged wooden beams, and it contained many human remains and many different artifacts created by these humans, which would have indicated its use in elaborate funerary rituals as well, which would also indicate a deep religion of some sort. And what these rituals entailed does remain speculative, but the care and effort put into the platform points to a culture deeply concerned with the afterlife and the proper honoring of their loved ones. The discovery of the so-called Newark Holy Stones as well within the mound, of which we've talked about the Newark Holy Stones. I'll leave a video of that in the comments. These were found in 1860, and it added yet another layer of mystery to this mound and this structure. And it would later prove to be it would later to be a highly debated topic. Like I said, go check out the video. But these stones were inscribed with Hebrew characters, which initially sparked theories of Old World contact and other biblical connections. So we'll just leave it at that. Like I said, again, check out the video. So tragically, much of the Reservoir Stone Mound, in this case, was destroyed in the 19th century when its stones were unfortunately repurposed for the construction of the Licking Reservoir, which is now, of course, known as Buckeye Lake. So what happened was thousands of wagon loads of stone were removed, which reduced this once magnificent structure to mere fragments today. And this act of destruction, carried out without regard for the cultural and historical significance of the site, would represent, and still does represent, an irreplaceable loss not only to the physical monument, but also to our understanding of the ancient people that lived here. The mound was a cornerstone of ancient engineering and perhaps even spiritual expression in a sense. It would have been a structure that would have provided profound insights into the beliefs, the engineering capabilities, rituals, and other aspects of the ancient cultures that lived here, like the Adena culture. Its destruction has honestly robbed us of the opportunity to study its full context, to examine how it might have aligned with celestial events, or perhaps to decipher its relationship to other monumental sites in the region. Who knows? It could have had a connection to Mesoamerica in a way. Each stone removed was not a piece of rock, but indeed a piece of history, painstakingly placed by hands long gone. And the significance of such a feat cannot be overstated. This was a structure that may have stood as a unifying symbol for an entire culture. This loss is truly disheartening, so I just want to get that out there and indicate that hopefully this never happens again, because this would have been a true sight to see. It would have literally been the largest structure in North America that was built by ancient indigenous people. It would have been something we would have marveled at today. We would have created a national park around it. It would have probably been a World Heritage Site if it was still around, to be quite honest with you. So even with today, what remains of the mound is still a shadow of its former self, an incomplete puzzle that will never be solved. And we can still piece together fragments of its story, but the grand narrative of its construction, its use, and the meaning have been irreversibly diminished. This destruction is not just a loss for archaeology or history, it's truly a loss for humanity. But the remnants and the artifacts recovered from the site do still offer important clues. The effort required to build the mound would suggest that a society would have had a shared vision and a shared purpose. The alignment of the structure with the landscape also hints at a sophisticated understanding of geography and perhaps astronomy, which would be evident because we've seen it before in other structures created by these cultures. So the inclusion of burial elements also highlights the Adena's spiritual complexity and their reverence for the cycle of life and death. The Reservoir Stone Mounds is one of mystery. Even in its diminished state, it continues to spark questions about the capabilities and aspirations of ancient peoples, perhaps even more questions than it would have before. Why did they choose stone, a material that required much more effort than earth to construct? What did they hope to achieve with such a monumental structure? These are two questions that really are unfortunately not able to be answered because, well, there aren't many stone structures that are left behind, especially ones of this magnitude. So I think those are really the two questions we're left to ask, and perhaps the two questions that we will answer in later videos. Why did they choose stone? And what did they do? What did they hope to achieve with this monumental structure? What was its goals? Was it a religious sacrament? Was it some sort of other means of territorial marking? Landscape marking? Who knows? But I'll let you guys decide for this time. Let me know in the comments below what you think this mound was built for, and we'll certainly be covering it later on in other videos. So until then, it has been Doogie from Doogie's Earthworks, and thank you for listening. I love you.